Welcome to another Ahead of the Curve. I'm Susanna Kay, this guy's wife.
Hi.
Today we've got a bit of a different show. Our normal guest had a bit of an emergency at the last minute, so you get us.
Instead.
What are we going to do today, Jeff?
Talk about cool stuff?
I hope so.
I hope so too.
We're going to find out.
I mean, we're not any Vello, but we've got a few tricks up our sleeve. We've got a few things we can speak about, I think.
Yeah. So our normal guest was Vello. He will be
Vello
on.
Verkhaus.
Yep, he will be on again later because we will be rescheduling him and we're excited to have him. But for now, I would like to talk a little bit to Jeff in his stead and find out a little bit more about the man behind Ahead of the Curve.
So for those of you who saw the episode with my wife last time, you might remember that she does not hold back. She puts me on the spot in a lot of different ways, and it's going to be an interesting episode.
I do have fun with it.
So this is part 2 of the Susie Jeff episode.
Yeah.
In place for Vello, seeing as Vello had to run off for a dental emergency.
But today I want to find out a little bit more about my husband. A lot of things that I probably don't even know.
Or understand, which makes it even that much more fun.
A lot of things I don't understand. I'm not in the industry. I just get toted along to all of the events. So first off, I kind of wanted to find out from you, Jeff.
Yeah.
What education did you get that led you to the field? Is there anything specific or was it generally related? And how did you land here education-wise?
That's a great question because we've had a lot of people asking about training and a lot of people asking about education. I was a theater kid through high school, and theater is really what drew me into the industry and what really drew me into, becoming part of this insane industry that we currently work and live and love in. And I sought out a degree in theater. I went to college for 3 years studying technical theater and design. So I learned a lot about a lot of actually great knowledge that I didn't think was going to be fully applicable, of course, in life and in work today.
It's amazing what theater pulls into your life, even if you're not in the entertainment field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody can benefit from it.
There's just so much that you end up learning. And one of the classes I will never forget was my dramaturgy class. And it was rough because there was a lot of reading, there was a lot of critiquing, and the teacher that we had was super, super strict, like super hardcore teacher, and she was really passionate, and she was a hard ass. I mean, she was tough.
We all know those.
Yeah. So, but she taught us how to break things down and how to analyze, why things are done in certain ways, and critique things and critique ourselves and be constructive about critiquing.
So how do you use that in your field now? How does that translate?
It translates in a number of different ways now, because our industry is very critical on the way that we do things. You've got a very short period of time to make things perfect in a lot of different ways. And it's a very creative field. So you really have to be open to breaking things down, analyzing things more, and really trying to break down to why are you doing things in a particular way?
What examples do you have?
Or what
do you remember a specific situation that you've done that in, or anything that happened in the field that I know. See, I do this to him. This is why he hates it when I come on the show.
That's another great question.
It's the only kind I have.
Yeah, she really gets me thinking on these things. Usually when I have guests on the show, I'm the one that's doing the thinking behind the scenes and not really doing a whole lot of the speaking or talking. But again, that's another great question. I think a lot of it came down to when I was heavily designing a lot of shows, and I got more involved in full production design and set design work. And
oh, you're okay. I know he scared you.
Oh, you scared
This
him.
is solo, by the way.
This is solo.
He's trying to jump down and hurt himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were saying.
Yeah. So a lot of it came into play when I was designing a lot of shows, and more when I was actually getting into the whole overall look of an event and a show, and trying to create moments for the customers and the clients, and really critiquing my own work and critiquing the design choices that I made.
Right.
And why I would make those choices, and what the purposes of those things were like, what the purposes of those decisions were to be able to achieve a really good end result.
Right. To make sure that you don't have excess or doing things the long way around and it was getting the effect that you wanted.
And like, I think a really good design always comes from a lot of different opinions, for one, not just your own, but having your idea and curating your idea, but really, once you've kind of got that overall design idea, like really buckling down and breaking it down into pieces, and looking at what your customer wants out of the design. So if you're working in, music and working with a band, they might have their own vision. They might look for you and your experience and expertise to create that vision for them. But a lot of artists like to be really, well, they're music artists and they're already creative. So a lot of them have already got kind of their own ideas or visions.
But they tend to pick people based on their own style and who they feel fits their style a lot.
Yeah, and everybody's got different styles, as we all know. So it's kind of interesting to kind of look at things, and also like looking at what you're doing outside of the box and taking a step away from the work that you might be doing yourself, and getting some other outside opinions, or calling your spouse and saying, hey, come check this out, what do you think about it?
He does that all the time.
Yeah. And just kind of getting some outside input, or
you
leaving.
Also like to play a lot.
I do play
with a lot of different things.
I play way too much.
Now we've gotten to the point our neighbors know us, and it's made holidays a little difficult because he started to projection map the house, and he doesn't know this, but I actually.
It's no use to hide, they're sure to find you. Don't turn around, they're creeping up behind you. Hobnobbing goblins terrorize with hideous grins and grim glowing eyes. Some tall and thin, some short and stout. They'll rap on your door and you will hear them shout out, trick or treat, and smell our feet and give us something good to eat. 'Cause if you don't, you will despair as we serve up a very special scare. Goblins enjoy making frightful faces meant to unnerve and to terrify. But the most clever hiding places, waiting in the dark for someone to walk by.
And all that stuff. So
yep,
that was pretty intense.
He spent a lot of time outside that year, this past year. Yeah, it made Halloween a lot more fun for the kids who couldn't go trick-or-treating. Or couldn't do their regular trick-or-treating, but now they started asking about what was next year's Halloween projection mapping.
And Christmas. Let's not forget Christmas.
Christmas, I think for Easter they're going to expect it too.
Probably.
But that's how you also, I find, you've analyzed what works, what doesn't, and you seem to learn a lot and try all your new things on our house. Or in our living room.
On our house, living room,
from the ceiling.
in my bed, or in my office, I should say. And
hanging things from the ceiling.
And we've had some pretty wild parties at our home in the past where I put Microsoft Kinects and motion sensors and stuff in the house.
Yeah.
Interactive displays. To see if guests would even notice that something's happening when they come into the living room, or they come into the house. And usually my friends are the ones that end up getting stuck with the brunt of my experiments and my creative
always growing, right?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I just wanted to mention, for those of you viewing the show, hey, welcome. You might have noticed that things have changed a little bit. Vello had a dental emergency, who was our guest for today, so he had to bail on us. Unfortunately, hopefully he's going to be okay. Yep. So my wife Susie has taken the reins, and she's here now, putting me on the spot. Yeah. So if you guys have any questions at any point, of course, during the show, no matter how embarrassing, feel free to
write them in the comments.
Yeah, we'll write them in the comments, and we'll get to them.
We already had John said that's an awesome, unique Halloween display. Very cool. He had everything. He had Ghostbusters. He had some artsy stuff that was just one little bit that I would be able to play without YouTube's copyright infringement yelling at us for the music.
I want to say, like, some of the interesting things about doing a project at home, for one, is you don't have the pressure of a client, and it's a great space, even if you're living in an apartment or you're living in a smaller space. If you can get your hands on some, I mean, the equipment's not very expensive these days. You know, some of the projectors that I used on our house, I ended up picking up on some of the Amazon flash sales. They were Chinese projectors, but they actually held up really, really well, surprisingly.
Yeah.
The optics were pretty decent, and I ended up going on eBay and I bought a bunch of video, basically 4K video over IP module. She laughs because I've got like a closet stacked full of them now.
You should see his office.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, but
and I'm a professional organizer, so that's fun. And that's actually, you know what? Let's talk about that.
No, let's not talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
No, let's not talk about that.
I would love to hear other people in your field. How in the world do you keep all of the cords and equipment organized? I know it seems like every 6 months or so, I head into his office with him to wrangle things back in. He's got, I don't know, like 8 monitors, 12 computers, boxes of cords, and the boxes for everything that he purchased. So in the comments, let me know, what are your organizing tricks? Because I could use that in my own business. That would be great. But anyway, yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to just kind of continue on my little rant, because I think it's also important that, people have been asking a lot during the years about access to different things and being able to find things and work with things.
Yeah. You don't have to spend a ton of money to do it. He was already up.
Yeah, it looks like he wants to come up again. But
yeah.
he, but there's a lot of stuff out there, and eBay is a great resource to find a lot of really good equipment. Again, I ended up purchasing a bunch of these video over IP extenders. They were fantastic for being able to get video signals strung around the house, because I ended up using a lot of projectors in a whole bunch of different areas within the house. So even the room that we're sitting in now, I had 2 projectors. I had projectors in our kitchen, projectors in our living room, projectors outside, projectors everywhere. And one of the biggest challenges, of course, is being able to, string that video signal into different places, especially if you're using, 1 computer or maybe 2 computers to synchronize all the video content together. You've got to be able to distribute all of that information and that data quickly. So yeah, I ended up finding a bunch of video over IP connectors on eBay. They were like $40 a pop, and they worked phenomenally. And I was able to get video strung all over the place. I actually,
tools?
So I used MadMapper to get things kind of aligned where I wanted to have them on the house, but I was distributing a lot of different media, and MadMapper is awesome if you're using it in a single instance, or if you've got some of their little Mad players that you can string around, but I didn't have those. So I ended up using actually one of my former employers' products called Pandora's Box. And I ended up using a few instances of that actually around. And here's Ruben again, of course. Yeah, should have used AI. Of course I should have. Well, I know a person, that can handle that in the future. But I also work, for those of you who don't know, I also work for a company called 7th Sense, who also create amazing media server products. And I'm working there, working on a lot of next generation technologies inside of the company, and working on a lot of real-time based technologies. And
we're going to be able to up our holiday.
Yeah, we're going to hopefully up our holiday shows here.
It's going to be nice.
Fairly soon.
What other tools are out there for people, though, if they don't have access to some of those, or if they want to be able to,
So this is
what are the top tools, sort of, I guess, for in general?
That's another great question. Actually, Ruben mentioned an app called Companion last week on the show, and we've had a couple of people ask about where they could find it. I've actually got some of the links now posted in the banners, but it's made by the one that Ruben was mentioning last week was called Companion. And it was an app originally that was built in use with Stream Deck. And Ruben made it aware to me today, actually, that you can use it with a virtual Stream Deck. as well. So that one would be Bitfocus. Yeah, there we go.
Bitfocus?
Yeah. So
bitfocus.io.
Yeah, bitfocus.io is a great place to be able to access that and get that. So thank you so much, Ruben, for that little piece of input. That allows you to basically send functions and commands from a Stream Deck device or even a virtual Stream Deck device to a multitude of different types of software.
The control center that
it's kind of like the control center that communicates in between, and you can do all kinds of logic and functions and stuff with it. So
that's bitfocus.io.
Bitfocus.io is the place to find that one. I also had a tendency to play with a lot of other applications and creative applications that are free out there. There's some absolutely phenomenal web-based tools. So one of them is called Tool. I think it's tool.io.
Two L's.
Yeah, with two L's.
LL.
And yeah, so this one is a like fully creative online WebGL based creative tool. It allows you to plug in code in different shaders, but it's Nodial based, and it allows you to basically create a lot of things that you can do, like a lot of visual effects and a lot of visual art that you could create directly inside of a web browser without the use of any application. So the benefits to that is you can use any platform, whether you're your Mac or whatever, to be able to do that. And it's a super, super great tool. There's another one called Cables. Some of you guys might have heard Cables, a lot of noodling, another Nodial based program, fairly similar to Tool actually, but also integrates a lot more command and functionality and stuff like that into the software. So really, really cool one to be able to use, to be able to control different devices and be able to do some really creative things with. And it's completely free.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And if anybody has any resources and tools out there that are free and good that you like, post them in the comments.
Yeah, it would be great.
We'd love to hear from the masses what everybody's using and likes. Yeah,
these are just a few ones that I've kind of explored and found, and I know a lot of people are a little bit of a pinch for budget, and it's fun to be able to learn some of these things. A lot of the other, like, there's a lot of other tools that are also available for oh my goodness, what was I going to say? I completely lost my train of thought. That never happens.
Never.
But yeah, actually, some of the things I was going to say,
like, I hope I said your name right. Avinash says, thank you. I was searching for companion. On a side note, do you have any info about streaming volumetric video?
Streaming volumetric video. That is a great question. So not off the top. Well, the thing with streaming volumetric video, and volumetric video for one is still very new and quite experimental. Mm-hmm. It takes a tremendous amount of bandwidth to be able to process and to be able to push out anything that's volumetric right now. So to be honest with you, if anybody else knows of anything, then that would be great to hear back from you guys, from the viewers. But Avinash, those things are definitely in the works. We're starting to see a lot more devices that are becoming available on the marketplaces that allow you to capture things volumetrically. But I would say that, things are definitely not there yet, just because of how much processing power is needed to be able to crunch everything together.
Supercomputer needed.
Yeah.
Use your Bitcoin system.
Yeah.
If only.
Yeah, go use your bit mining ASICs. But
I think I have one more tool that you like.
I was actually going to say that there's a lot of one of the biggest and most widely used tools in a lot of our industry is Touch Designer, and one of the cool things with Touch Designer is you don't need to have a license in order to use it. I mean, it's resolution restricted. It's resolution restricted to 1280 by 720, but you can pretty much do a tremendous amount of things within their software suite, and it's free to download and free to use. So again, it's just something I think that just about everybody should take a look at. I've been learning a lot about Touch Designer, in all honesty, over the last even just the last few weeks. And I've really been learning and harnessing the power of what it's really capable of doing. And it's an incredible product. It's really, really well done.
Nice.
Yeah.
So there was also, did you want to talk about?
Oh, yeah. You know what? Yeah. So that was where my thought was that I lost a few minutes ago. So yeah, talking about tools, Hexler.net creates something that you guys might be familiar with called Touch OSC, but they also do some really awesome products, again, that are free. So this one's called Code Life, for those of you that are interested in getting into any shader coding and want to try, some freeware that will help you be able to visualize shader code really quickly. Code Life is an awesome tool to dabble with and to learn a little bit of shader code if you're interested. But they also hashtag Touch Designer.
Yep.
But yeah, the other thing that is super cool with that website is they make an app called Protocol. And for those of you that are using OSC as a communication protocol or communication tool, I got turned on to this by Lewis Kyle White, who was on our show in the earlier days.
It was a good show.
Yeah, it was
fun. Check it out on YouTube.
So, yep, absolutely. Check that episode out. But Lewis Kyle White is like the tinkerer of all things and super talented. And yeah, he's like a mad scientist when it gets down to it. It's just incredible what I've actually even learned from interviewing him and from being a friend of his for a few years now. But he introduced me to Protocol, and Protocol basically is a OSC packet sniffer, and it'll show you every single OSC message that's traveling through a network, so you can fully analyze and be able to check all the results of any OSC messages that are floating around on your network, and make sure that all of your messages are going the right places and your syntax is proper. And that way you can basically just use it to make sure that things are active and things are going where they need to go. So I've really become a heavily reliant on Protocol. Yeah, it's super awesome application.
Nice. Yeah, and anything that we missed, drop it in the comments.
Yeah, it'd be great to hear your input as well. If there's any tools out there that you guys have been using that that are fun to use, that are creative and serve a really good purpose. I mean, there's just so many of them that are out there right now that people can pick up and learn. And
it's a great way to learn before investing a whole lot in some of the massive software. Get going also, right?
Yep.
Yeah, learn some new skills.
Learn some new skills. Learn some new stuff. Actually, Susie does a lot of stuff on LinkedIn Learning, which was formerly lynda.com. Yep. So she did a lot of home organizing courses and productivity courses. Yep. Productivity courses. I don't know.
He's got no clue, but he tries to support me, which is really sweet.
She's cute.
That's what counts. Ruben says, there's this tool. There's this tool, this tool.
Yeah. I guess some people can call me a tool, depending on,
Nobody would ever. There's this tool I know, starts with a G.
Yeah. Thanks, Ruben.
Showing the love. I love it. That's awesome. So another thing, speaking of all of these various tools and learning new skills and your diverse background, because you've kind of started off with all sorts of different things. So you've got a lot of tools in your tool belt of experience before you became sort of the software and real-time guru of all things real-time. You were talking about how useful it's been to have diversity in your background when you're working on shows or creating anything. So
again, it was kind of interesting because we touched on this a little bit with Ruben last week, and we were talking about, our backgrounds and focusing on certain things. And when you're learning and when you're making out to learn different things inside the industry, one of the things that I think helped me a lot in my career and, where I am right now was really looking at a lot of different disciplines and different skills. So when I first started in the industry, I really thought I wanted to be an audio engineer, and I got really heavily involved in audio and editing, and I got a gig in a recording studio in Montreal way back in the day, and I did some live audio, but I really understood, and I got a really good understanding of how audio worked, and how the system was put together and what it took to put together an audio system, but also be able to operate it and be able to know how it works. And then I moved into lighting. And when I got into lighting, there were, of course, a lot of similarities between lighting and audio, which was great because audio patching and everything and passing signal is pretty much the same just about with anything that you're working with. Right. So, getting into lighting and understanding lighting, and then getting into moving lights and how all that stuff worked and programming them, gave me a really good understanding of doing that. And then I got in, actually transitioned from that more into video and set design and everything else. And as you build up, going through these different disciplines, you end up gaining a whole bunch of different knowledge, and you end up building these skill sets, unique skill sets that you can't really develop or find, just by focusing and doing one thing. So
just what you learn, like different processes and ways of thinking, I'm sure, bring new aspects into what you're doing, whether it's lighting or video.
Yeah.
Because it makes you think in a different way than possibly if you'd only known lighting.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So really cool. I guess like one of my big pieces of advice to everybody out there that's watching is, don't be afraid of being diverse. Don't be afraid of experimenting and trying new things, and learning different parts of the industry. It's, as I mentioned earlier in the episode with my dramaturgy class, like a lot of information I learned in school, I never thought was going to be applicable until now. When I look back at it, I'm like, oh my God, like,
yeah,
thank God I learned that stuff. And
you never know where your path is taking you. Sometimes I know, even me in my background, I went through many different careers before I ended up where I'm at.
Yeah.
And it never made sense. I thought, I just can't stay focused. So my career in finance and my career in theater and my career in education and all of these things never made sense. I thought that I was just hopeless. But really, I was gathering all of this information and these tools for what I do now, which is teaching, organizing, and productivity, which I never would have thought of. So yeah, just follow where your gut tells you to go and what your gut tells you to play with, and it might be leading to something cool. Mm-hmm. And you're going to use those tools in new ways that you never thought of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, and there's so many companies, like, again, Ruben mentioned last week that there's training that's available from all these companies right now. And, with events not happening to a larger scale, and a lot of these companies have really focused on creating amazing training and support material. So,
use it.
as we said last week and weeks past, now is the time to learn new things, and the resources are at your fingertips. So yeah.
Even if it's not within the industry specifically, even if it's just business, like LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah.
I mean, I still use it all the time for things that aren't necessarily specific to my business, but sometimes I just need to learn, like we got a Glowforge. How in the world do I use AI to cut finger joints and things like that? So you never know.
No, you never do.
So Room had asked, is there a technology that you think is overrated? And also something that you think is underrated? So what are the hidden gems and what are the rocks pretending to be diamonds?
Such a good question.
And tread lightly, I'm sure, sometimes, but good one, Ruben.
I think, to be honest with you, I think I want to go in reverse order and start with the underrated stuff.
Yeah. Where's the diamond that nobody
more
realizes?
Than the overrated stuff.
Okay.
I think a lot of the underrated stuff actually lies in some of the web-based technologies that are in place. We talk about a lot of like cloud-based applications, but nobody's really dove in heavily into it. But I think a lot of that is people are still experimenting and figuring out the advantages to be able to use that kind of technology in our industry. So but not only that, there's a lot of web-based, rendering that's been out, like WebGL. And I think that it's got a huge amount of potential. And there's some phenomenal applications that are web-based applications that are being built now. But it kind of like sits under the surface a lot. We don't really think about it because I think we jump online and we use some tools and we're like, oh, this is really cool. But you don't almost realize that you're...
Do you feel like maybe we think that they're not as powerful as something that's on our desktop?
Maybe we just don't think they're as powerful. But, you know, I think that's definitely something that's been quite underrated for some time. People are starting to realize it.
That a lot of...
I think people are starting to, and some of the products are definitely pushing into that area. You know, video technology is hard, but generative stuff definitely, I think it's going to become more of a trend, you know, like as we push in forward. Yeah. Yeah. Like everything else kind of going web-based, but... And
subscription-based, I'm sure, along with it.
Well, yeah, yep. Of course.
It's the way of the world.
Got to be able to make money off of it somehow.
So are there any ones in particular that you can think of that should get a note?
Some of the tools that we've mentioned earlier. There's some amazing applications that are out there, like Lucid Chart, for example, is a great online tool that has a ton of different uses to be able to create drawings and system drawings and brainstorming and brain graphs and different all kinds of flow charts and different things online. You know, that's WebGL based, but it's super handy because it's one application that kind of conquers a lot of different things in one place.
Right, and they make it simple.
And they make it super simple. So, I mean, it's a fantastic tool to be able to have access to and use. Planning tools, there's so many different planning tools on there that you can use. But, you know, the web-based technologies, I think, it's funny to say that they're underrated, but I think that they, in our industry specifically, I think in some cases they really are underrated.
How about the overrated? I know Jamie mentioned he feels that the wheel is highly overrated.
Jamie, the wheel is definitely overrated. We should not be using wheels. They're horrible. I think we should go to squares.
Yep.
Or triangles.
Much better. Much more stable.
Or let's just do octagons. They're close to wheels. So overrated. So that is a really tough one, in all honesty. Because
and you know a lot of them. Like your passion is finding technologies and testing them out and learning the ins and outs of all of them, right?
Yeah, well, learning as many as I can. That, in all honesty, Ruben, is a really tough question to answer because there are so many. They're
probably all specific for certain purposes. Like it might be overrated for one purpose, but really fantastic for another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
he might have to answer that in the comments later.
I might have to. I might. Yeah. Because that one is tough. I'd love to actually hear, Ruben, maybe you can input something into the comment. What do you think about what's overrated? I mean,
or underrated.
Or I guess or underrated. Yeah. But yeah, that one's super. That's a super tough question. I don't even know how to attack it. Good. I mean, if I wanted to take a huge, like, big baseball swing at it, it's going to sound kind of crazy, but I think
you might have to just answer in the comments. Your brain's going to explode. I can see it. I'm smelling the
smoke. I want to say it, but I don't want to say it at the same time.
Yep.
But
that's a hard one.
I think some of the technologies that we are working with inside of, like, some of the gaming technologies, I'm going to honestly say are, I think, a little, I'm not going to say overrated, but inflated. Yeah. And maybe a little over exaggerated, but
they're not
that might also
massively amazing.
You know, the thing is I think a lot of them are really trying to find their place. Yeah. And I've had this conversation amongst a number of people, some peers as well in the past, but you know, like they're trying to find their place in different market segments, but they're generalized to do one specific thing really, really well.
Brilliantly done, sir. Brilliantly done.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get into it, if you want to say overrated, extended reality workflows are a mixture of all these different workflows. It's kind of the buzzword, of course. Yeah. But you know, it's interesting because it's also been the main source of revenue for a lot of people. that watch the show and a lot of people that work in our industry right now, because, you know, COVID restrictions, you need to be able to,
right now.
you need to be able to keep food on the table and, you know, keep your bills paid. But I wouldn't say it's overrated. I would just say that it's the main point of focus right now. You know, it's like where all efforts are being put by a lot of different companies are really pushing into that, like keeping their focuses there.
So what do you think will the next focus be after XR when things loosen up a bit?
I think,
what's the thing to watch?
I think the next thing, there's a number of next things. I've always been a huge proponent of computer vision, and I'm still very much, I'm very much kind of, I think that artificial intelligence inside of our softwares is really important focus in a lot of different ways to be able to automate a lot of different things. But, you know, in my mind, one of the things that I've always wanted to do, and I will eventually do this, is I've wanted to make like an AI that could work within a creative application that could judge the moods and the reactions of people, say, attending a concert. Yeah. You know, and being able to go, oh, people have got lighters up, and, you know, the mood is really kind of mellow and react. Like, I've always called it like reactionary media and creating reactive media. But, you know, I always thought that being able to use AI in ways to be able to help, you know, enhance the moods, and also, you know, that's create these different environments and these different experiences that are unique every single time that you attend them or every single time that you go somewhere.
Like our board games, the ones that have things that change the game every single time.
So yeah, I mean, that's the uniqueness. That's, you know, exactly it. Is you want to have
10 times because it's different.
You want to have that appeal to basically bring people back and have people coming back all the time. I think the other thing that, you know, Ruben just mentioned again with the XR being ahead of the market. The next step from that evolution is going to be, I love to say this, or love it and hate to say it, but it's going to be a focus on mixed reality. It's going to be a focus on taking all of the skills and everything that people have learned over the course of this past year, and then melding them together so that they can live harmoniously inside of one kind of ecosystem, so that you can mix a live event with an extended reality or a virtual production, and be able to seamlessly do it.
That would be nice. So
that people that are in the physical space are not going to feel like they're missing out or they're losing a part of the production quality, where people in the virtual space, you know, like everybody's kind of experiencing the same thing.
Ruben says, preach.
So
said CV.
Yeah,
is the
computer
next big
vision.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tracking your user to enable them to freely interact with an experience is the key for the future of entertainment.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree, Guillaume, with you anymore.
In the industry, just dragged along to all the events and forced to roll cables afterwards. I absolutely agree.
You're my cable winch.
I am. Getting soaked in the rain, rolling cable to save projectors. Things I do for love. But yeah, Bart, if you're out there watching, hi. But yeah, as just a user, as just a user though, that is kind of what's hot for the non-industry people, is that interaction and the thrill of being able to manipulate a technology that we can't manipulate on our own any other way. I can't hop onto the computer and create a software to make something do these things. So to me, it's like wizardry. You know, I'm like, I can be Harry Potter or Hermione in my case, and you know, I make things happen that I would never have control over, which that is super cool. Yeah, and being able to have things adjust according to me with the moods that I'm in or how I'm reacting would probably blow my mind. But yeah, I think that that's very much what people want, because they want to feel seen and feel like a person and important when using the technology, instead of just being a voyeur or the puppet master. They want to actually have an interaction and a relationship with their technology now.
Yep. Yeah. The biggest challenge, I think, in a lot of that is it all comes back down to privacy and privacy policies.
Yeah.
From country to country, they all have different private policies, and being able to collect it, just being able to use it, like being able to capture your face on camera and go, you're a female, you're in the age range of like whatever, 35 to 40, and you're dressed in a Harry Potter outfit. So
obviously a dork.
She's got a Hufflepuff symbol on her, so we're going to tag her as a Hufflepuff. And now whenever she shows up anywhere else inside of Harry Potter land, when she reacts with any of the interactive displays, she's going to interact as a Hufflepuff, and we're going to give her Hufflepuff-based content. You know, like stuff like that.
Which, by the way, I'm a Huffleclaw.
We need to get past all of the privacy stuff.
Just collecting data in a way that does not tie it to who the person is kind of the key.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. It's just the privacy stuff. Once we can kind of just get past that and get past ourselves, like, I mean, get past the whole idea of companies collecting our data and our information. I mean, they've been doing it for years, people. They've been collecting our information for years.
Do you think the ad on your sidebar right now is random? It's not. They know you looked at those sneakers this morning. Avinash says that there's a graphics standard called OpenXR for Vulkan that is so different from the XR used in the video world.
Yes.
I think I've heard of you mention, actually, the OpenXR from or something. I've heard of it before. Must have been from you. So yeah. The
other thing too is, you know, there's libraries of different things when you're doing development work, and you know, there's different, like as you just mentioned, with working with OpenXR and Vulkan. You know, Vulkan's a rendering technology that's been coming along for a number of years now. That's being used in a lot of different applications, and it's been showing really promising results. But you know, it's there's so many different terms that are used across different industries that it gets really confusing, especially when you're doing software development and working in development areas.
Like standard.
It's pretty
always
messy.
Called this.
The nomenclature gets to be a pretty good mess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
what
was your favorite project that you ever worked on?
Oh, jeez.
I've been dying to know. So I figured I was saving it for one of these times where you were stuck and had to answer me. Or top 2 or so.
Top 2 projects that I've ever worked on.
Because you've done a lot of random crap. Like you've done video or music concerts and theater and digital art.
So one of the projects that I think that I really enjoyed doing year after year was, this was a while ago, is I used to be the set designer and lighting director for the NASCAR end of year banquets that used to televise on Speed Network.
My sister Kate is gonna be jealous.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But I always enjoyed doing those shows because there were always headliner bands. So I kind of got the best of a bunch of different worlds. It was awards banquet, so it's kind of like corporate.
Yeah.
With an awards banquet, but it was mixed with live music. So we always had a headliner act that would come in and do a few songs.
So you get the standard corporate setup.
And they didn't bring their own LD most of the time, so I got to, you know, take care of being creative and lighting for the band. And then I was also lighting for TV at the same time and creating a set that was appealing for television. Yeah. So it was a really unique challenge because I was kind of tackling 3 different things at the same time.
That's fun.
So that was
really
those projects were actually quite a bit of fun.
I know you also, as a Canadian citizen, before you were a U.S. citizen, managed to get more security clearance than anybody else that I know.
Yeah,
which was kind of funny.
So yeah, I in the past I was there's been a number of lighting directors that have had this happen, but I was for White House Communications for a number of years as well, and I got
the president look good.
Yep, I got to. Yeah, so that, and I was doing lighting during Bill Clinton and George Bush Jr. Or wait, no, was it George Bush Jr.? Yeah, George Bush Jr. So I did a lot of events for them, a lot of televised events for White House Communications when the president was doing televised speeches.
Which you think would make the citizenship process easier, but turns out it does not.
It did not. No, but you know, I got to see a lot of really cool things, and I got to check out Air Force One like in person, and you know, I had a lot of really cool.
That makes our Delta first class seat that we got.
Privileges to be able to go and, you know, see things that normal citizens never get the opportunity to see behind the scenes. And
I think what we all want to know is, what is your highest flight status with Delta that you've ever had?
I don't even want to go in there. I mean, we've all been there.
If you're watching, post what your highest level of achievement for your flight. What is it called? Rewards? Remember?
Oh, there's people that are going to beat me for sure, because you get in the start getting into the 1,000,000-mile clubs.
Oh, you road warriors.
That all starts to change.
That's how you got me to Ireland for free for our honeymoon.
Yep.
Yep. So, but what was your highest?
I don't know.
Was it like platinum or something? Or
well, it was diamond. It's always diamond status on diamond on Delta. But I mean, I have not yet hit any of the like 1,000,000-mile club
There's
figures.
Still time.
I'm almost there with Delta, but
can't go anywhere now. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, and actually, I think next year, if I can't fly anywhere this year, I'm going to lose my status entirely.
It's okay. I'll probably get status because with my business, I spend a lot on my Amex. Get those points that way. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's what you guys talk about at Circle Bar, because Ahead of the Curve is basically Circle Bar online.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know Circle Bar, it was who
does not know Circle Bar?
Well, there's a lot of people in our industry that don't know about it. It's a Circle Bar. Circle Bar was at Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas, and it's kind of like the main hangout area for anybody that attended LDI or anybody that attended Infocom in Las Vegas. Yeah, RIP Circle Bar.
Yeah,
but that was kind of the place where everybody would go. I mean, nobody really went to the conferences. Like, you go into the conference and go see a few vendors that you wanted to speak to, and
then
hang out at her Circle Bar. Yeah.
Good times. Yes, I have many late nights with you at Circle Bar.
Good times indeed.
Yes. Aw. Well, why don't you tell us, let's take a break real quick, and tell us who's up next week.
Yes, so as you guys know, Vello had to bow out, so we're going to try and get Vello back on a little bit later. A little bit later on, either this month or early into next month.
We'll let you know.
As you guys know, we are actually going to be hitting our 1-year anniversary in a couple of weeks' time, which, when you really think about it, is crazy. That means that we've been doing, with the exception of Thanksgiving and Christmas, we've done an episode every single week.
So you're heading towards your 50th episode.
Well, yeah, heading towards the 50th. Well, it's actually going to be the 52nd episode, because I did 2 episodes that were not live, that were posted online.
Do those count?
Well, maybe not. Well, they do count, because they were with Laura Frank and Phil Galler, and they were still some.
They were great episodes, though. You can find those on YouTube also.
Yeah.
But so that's impressive. 50.
But yeah,
we'd love to hear what you guys think of the episodes and what you like, how we could improve.
Yeah.
Any feedback? Give us feedback in the comments. We love it.
So next week we've got Anna Herzo online. She is a super talented visual artist. She works for, I think, Woodward University in California. She has a very interesting background. She worked for Obscure Digital for some time, and she's got a master's degree in research and media and new media, and she's also got a bachelor's degree in architecture. And she's done some incredible things in film, and she's done some very incredible things as well in the live events and digital art
industry.
And she was a featured artist as well at Digital Graffiti.
Yeah.
So
you're going to have to tune in next week at 1 o'clock
absolutely
Eastern
going to have
time
to check
on
that out
Thursday.
for sure.
Of course, Ruben asked, who was your favorite guest?
I'm not answering that question.
Especially because he's sitting next to his wife. If he doesn't say me, then he's in trouble. See how I got you out of that one?
Susie's my favorite guest. Of course you are,
Good
honey.
answer. Good answer.
You've always been my favorite guest.
Fear lasts longer than love. Remember that, ladies. It's always my motto.
Well, thank you all for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. And thank you to my wonderful wife, who is always here when
always the last minute.
when things take a radical shift and change.
I miss Plan B.
You're always my plan A, honey.
Aw, see? It's
My plan ahead of the curve.
Oh.
Well, thank you all for joining us for the conversation.
Make sure to check out the YouTube channel because that's where all the old interviews are with people like Ruben, who was a fantastic guest. He may be a close, he's definitely a top fiver. He might be a close second to me. I don't know. We're only going to talk about the first favorite, but check that out on YouTube. See Ruben and Lewis.
And Lewis, Kyle.
So many of the others.
Yeah, Lewis,
there
Kyle
was just
White
some really, really fun ones on there.
And Ginger and Ted and Scott.
And there's 50. Don't even.
I can just go down this entire list.
Thank you for hanging out with us.
Thank you for hanging out, everybody.
Make sure to check out Ahead of the Curve at aheadofthecurve.1. And that's where you can find links to all sorts of good stuff. And yeah, we just had a great time.
Nice save, honey.
Thank you. Yep.
Nice save. Well, thanks, everybody. And as we say every week, stay ahead of the curve.
Bye.
Bye.